training holidays every single day. So Kemp, you know, we'll stand aside, we've got the app on the table, here we go, I've read it. But it's okay, while we're sitting in England, this is the siren makes nothing. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play the siren for you now, which will be followed by Robin playing Steve Metzger's on sax. Please take a few seconds just to think what it's like if you have 15, 30 or 45 seconds to grab your kids and get to a bomb shelter.
Sciatica.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robin Watts. Friends, our last speaker today has spent most of his life fighting terrorism and insurgency, commanding British troops on the front line of some of the world's toughest hotspots, including Afghanistan, Iraq,
the Balkans and Northern Ireland. He worked for the Joint Intelligence Organisation in the Cabinet Office between 2002 and 2006, where he was responsible for international and domestic terrorism, for security and politics in the Middle East, and for the coordination of national intelligence. In 1994, he was appointed member of the Order of the British Empire in recognition of his intelligence work in Northern Ireland. In 1993, he was awarded the Queen's Commendation for bravery for service as a commander in the United Nations Protection Force in Bosnia. He was promoted CBE in the Yids Honours of 2006. In addition, he is a member of the International Advisory Board and the Board of Human Rights. Since leaving the army, he's become a best-selling author, but for all these remarkable achievements, we simply call him a friend. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage a true, steadfast, dedicated, trusted and honest friend of Israel, Colonel Richard Kemp.
It's a real honour and a privilege to be here in Brighton today. My only slight disappointment was that I was relying upon the chief rabbi and the numerous other rabbis I've seen here today to sort the weather out. But clearly they failed. If I'd have realised that, I'd have gone over their heads to the Archbishop of Westminster and asked for his intervention. I shouldn't really say that in a predominantly Jewish audience, I know, I do apologise. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a huge honour to be in Brighton, and it's also a very, very apt place in which to hold this event. I know that many people weren't aware there was any large conurbation south of London, but this is very appropriate. The reason it's appropriate is because, of course, Brighton is internationally recognised as a beacon of enlightenment, as a very liberal city which welcomes diversity and a very wide range of views. It's known throughout the world in the same way as the city of Tel Aviv is known for these same things. Ladies and gentlemen, Brighton also, there is another reason why Brighton is extremely suitable for this venue, and that is that Brighton itself, of course, has suffered a very, very serious IRA terrorist bomb attack a number of years ago, aimed at the destruction of our own government during the Conservative Party conference. That same kind of terrorism, as has been experienced and is still experienced on a frequent basis in Israel. But also, like many cities in Israel, in southern Israel in particular, but not only in southern Israel, like many cities in Israel, the good citizens of Brighton were once sent hurrying to their air raid shelters by rockets fired indiscriminately at their civilian population from across the channel. Unguided rockets deliberately aimed at the civilian population of Brighton and other cities in southern England. The same problem has faced Israel and has faced Israel for many years now. 198 of Brighton's citizens died in the Second World War as a result of Nazi bombing and latterly of these rocket attacks that I mentioned. And people sometimes say to me, what would Britain do? What would Britain do if it was faced by the same onslaught of indiscriminate rocket attacks as Israel faces? And I don't need to theorise on that. I don't need to give you a hypothetical answer, because I know what Britain would do and I know what Britain did do. And when the Germans initially planned to launch missiles at Great Britain, even before they developed the weapons, Britain's response was to send 600 bombers to the German city where they were being developed and obliterate the research laboratory where they were being built. During that attack of 600 bombers on one night, 723 innocent civilians died in that attack to keep Britain safe from rocket attacks. However, it did not succeed, and the development was resumed elsewhere, and subsequently rockets began to be fired at Britain. At the high point of the Nazis' rocket effort, they fired 100 rockets a day at Britain, 30 less than have been fired on average each day by Hamas during the course of the recent conflict. What was Britain's response? We dropped 2,000 tons of bombs onto those rocket launch sites in towns and villages in northern France. We were then prepared to defend ourselves as we would defend ourselves now, in the same way as Israel not only has a right to defend itself, but has an absolute obligation. Ladies and gentlemen, who do these people, who on earth do these people think that they're dealing with when they deal with us? They claim that they want peace and freedom for Gaza. But who do they think they're talking to? Do they think we are feeble-minded? Do they think we have no memories? Do they think we know nothing about history? Do they think we lack moral courage? We can observe a pattern of activity from 1948 onwards. When the day that the Israeli state was born, it was attacked by 5 Arab armies and has been relentlessly attacked by massed Arab armies since then. Only when the Arabs realised they could not destroy the state of Israel through mass military assaults did they revert to other means, through terrorism, through subversion, through widespread campaigns of delegitimization, of boycotting, of sanctions, through hate campaigns intended to turn Jew against Jew and the ultimate prize for them to turn Jews against the state of Israel. That's what they wanted, that's what they've been trying to achieve. Nothing to do with freedom, with liberty for Gaza. That's not their objective. If that was their objective, if the objective of those people who support Hamas, who organise rallies, who organise campaigns, if their objective was to save the lives of Arabs, then why would they not organise widespread campaigns and marches against deaths of Arab citizens in Syria, in Iraq? Why not? So what have they been doing? What's been going on in Gaza and Israel in the last few weeks? I've been there for 4 weeks. I've watched closely what's been happening. Hamas have used the 2 weapons that they have at their disposal. They only have 2 weapons. Those 2 weapons are not rockets, they're not attack tunnels. They have used attack tunnels. They burrowed attack tunnels underneath Israel's border in order to abduct, massacre, drug and kidnap large numbers of Israeli citizens from southern Israel. They constructed those attack tunnels as well as the rest of their underground empire using funds, using equipment, using resources, using manpower that could have been used to develop, to give resources, to protect, to give freedom to the citizens of Gaza. They've also been firing rockets. As I said, 130 rockets a day. But those rockets mostly have been knocked out of the sky by that marvellous British invention, Iron Dome. I say British, I shouldn't say British to this audience, there may be some Israelis here, but the best way to wind up an Israeli is that their Iron Dome is British, and also their Waze sat-nav system was invented in Britain. They don't like it. But, ladies and gentlemen, those are not their weapons. Their weapons are, they could not hope to defeat the might of the state of Israel with its allies around the world using rockets and attack tunnels. They did not intend to defeat the state of Israel. They know they couldn't. So what were their weapons? Their weapons were 2. Human shields. Human shields. Their own old men, women, babies and children to be sacrificed for their own purposes. Human shields and lies and propaganda. Those two weapons combined are what they use in order to try to exert international pressure on Israel to get concessions for them as part of their ongoing campaign to ultimately exterminate the state of Israel and to annihilate Jews everywhere in the world as called for by their charter. Nothing to do with freedom and liberty and prosperity for Gaza. Their agenda is an agenda of genocide. That's all it is. That's right, sir. So what has been going on? What's been happening in Gaza? War crimes, ladies and gentlemen. War crimes have been committed. Those war crimes have been committed by Hamas, by the Islamic Jihad. They deliberately fire rockets at the Israeli civilian population. That is a war crime. They use their own civilian population to protect those rockets. That is a war crime. And it is not just protection of rockets. Their intention is not to protect the rockets with those human shields. Their intention is to lure and force Israel to kill those people. That's what they want. That's unfortunately what they have to a large extent achieved. They are indeed the murderers, ladies and gentlemen. They are indeed. They have used protected sites such as mosques, hospitals, schools, ambulances to store weapons to command their forces to fire and attack Israel from. All of those are war crimes. They've used child soldiers, very young children, to attack IDF troops, including in suicide bomb attacks. That is also a war crime. There is no depth to which Hamas will not stoop. And if you consider just for one moment, just consider the opposite situation, where you take Hamas's principal tactic of human shields, and you get Israel to use that tactic. Would that work for Israel? Israel is determined not to kill any innocent men, women and children. Hamas is desperate to kill as many innocent men, women and children as they can. And so that thought of reversing those roles of human shields tells you, I think, pretty much all you need to know about that conflict and who is right and who is wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, if that's what Hamas have been doing, what has the IDF been doing? The IDF take amazing efforts to gain intelligence to identify the targets they need to strike in Gaza. They use a variety of different intelligence sources, very costly sometimes in the lives of their intelligence agents. And only when they know precisely where a target is will they designate it for attack, and when they confirm that it's a legitimate target. And the next thing they do, when they've identified a target, is they confirm through a variety of surveillance means whether or not there are civilians in that target zone. If there are, they will send warnings to them using emails, text messages, dropping leaflets, broadcasting radio signals, and ultimately, if that doesn't work, they will drop harmless explosive munitions onto the top of a building, warning the people to go. Meanwhile, Hamas are there preventing those people from leaving. The IDF will not attack a building if there are innocent civilians in that building. They will not attack that building. I spoke recently to an Israeli Air Force pilot who'd been flying attack missions into Gaza the morning I was speaking to him. He told me he'd flown 17 sorties into Gaza against a single target and had aborted his mission every single time, each 17 times, because there were civilians in the target area. And finally he had to cancel the mission. I said to that soldier, that pilot, who might easily have been a Royal Air Force pilot, I said to that pilot, did you not find that frustrating? And his answer to me was humbling. He said, no, it wasn't at all frustrating. The best thing about the Israeli Air Force is that they will not allow a pilot to attack a target when there are civilians there. He said, how could I live with myself if I killed innocent civilians? I heard the same story from an Israeli infantryman who'd been attacking in Gaza and was about to go back into Gaza to carry out further attacks. An extremely brave young man who placed himself in enormous danger. And that infantryman said to me that even when he was under great threat, under enemy fire, even then, at the forefront of his mind was the need not to kill innocent civilians. And again, he said, how could he live with himself for the rest of his life if he'd done that? Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is a very, very humbling, very, very moral sentiment from a low-level infantryman and an extremely high-level fighter pilot. So why, if that's the case, why have so many people died? Estimates are that around 2,000 people have died in Gaza during this conflict. We need to pause for a second and reflect on those deaths. The deaths of the innocent civilians in Gaza, the deaths of the innocent Israeli civilians in Gaza, and also the deaths of the brave young citizen soldiers of the IDF in Gaza. Of course, all of these deaths are deeply disturbing and upsetting. For me as a soldier, I think particularly of the Israeli soldiers who have died. Because there is nothing greater, there is no greater contribution that any person can make to the defence or can make to his country than to give his whole life to his country. Everything he ever had, everything he ever wished for, everything he ever hoped for. But I think also of the civilians that have died, the Israeli civilians and the Palestinian civilians. If I thought for one moment that the Palestinian civilians had been killed deliberately by the IDF as a result of deliberate targeting, I would be the first to condemn the IDF, to attack the IDF, and to demand an explanation from the IDF. I know, ladies and gentlemen, that is not what has been happening. What has been happening is that sometimes when the IDF attack a target, the target will explode as a result of Hamas explosives that are in that target, causing much more widespread damage than was anticipated and causing civilian casualties. Sometimes a building will simply collapse and a nearby building, badly constructed, will also collapse, killing a lot of people. Sometimes missiles go wrong, either by human error or technical error. We've seen examples of poor targeting with those 4 boys that were killed on a beach. That was definitely not deliberate targeting as so many people, so many Hamas supporters and so many people in the media would like us to believe. That was an error. It was an error that will be accounted for by Israel, I have no doubt. And also, once Israel believes they've cleared people out of the buildings, Hamas will force them back in, and they will then be attacked by the IDF, unbeknown to them that there are civilians in it. Some of those civilians also, some of the civilians killed in Gaza have been killed by the Hamas. At least 200 Hamas rockets, at least, have dropped short, have failed to go to Israel, have landed on their own population, including one in a hospital and one in a refugee camp. Some of those civilians have been executed by Hamas for protesting against the conflict and also for allegedly collaborating with Israel. So if we take all those 2,000 deaths, 80 to 85% are estimated by the United Nations to have been civilian casualties. Where does that information come from, ladies and gentlemen? Hamas. The United Nations, who we pay for, incidentally, quote Hamas figures as being the authority on the number of civilian casualties. Yet we know from publications that Hamas have issued that Hamas are lying and are telling their people to lie about those civilian casualties. A closer estimate from authoritative independent sources who analyse every death, the identity of every death, scour social media and identify people's record in conjunction with terrorist organisations, gives a figure of closer to 50-50. One civilian killed for every militant killed, every fighter killed. Now that's awful, but I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, it's not as bad as the average in this form of conflict since the Second World War, which is about 3 civilians for every fighter killed. And rather than, although we must hate the idea of these civilians dying, of course we must, particularly those of us who have seen what shrapnel does to young children in the flesh. But we must at the same time, I believe, commend Israel for its amazing restraint and accuracy and technical prowess in only killing one civilian for one fighter killed in a conflict in such a densely packed area where their enemy are trying their best to lure and force the IDF to kill their civilians. We've seen some very, very good, strong support for Israel around the world, internationally. We've also seen some extremely bad or lack of support from countries and from people that should know better. Those people who condemn Israel, like Ban Ki-moon, like some members of the American administration, like some politicians in the United Kingdom. I won't mention any names, but I certainly wouldn't mention David Miliband. I don't know Galloway. Thank you. But those people are playing into Hamas's hands. They're validating Hamas's policy of human shield. By their actions, by telling Israel to stop defending itself, by accusing Israel of atrocities that it has not committed. By those actions, they're validating the use of human shields. They're encouraging Hamas to continue using human shields because their strategies seem to work. Not only that, they're encouraging other extremists around the world to use human shields. So by their ill-informed criticism, by their ill-informed comments, or malicious in some cases, they are going to cause the death of more and more innocent civilians, ladies and gentlemen. The media have culpability. Too many media listen to what Hamas told them. Too many media are prepared to be intimidated by Hamas and not even acknowledge that intimidation even after it's finished. And that has led us to see a grossly distorted picture of what's happening in Gaza. The truth is beginning to come out more and more now, and I believe and I hope we will see more and more of that truth as days go by. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to just address very briefly one other area that is equally troubling for me, and I know is even more troubling or just as troubling for all of you. And that is the scourge of anti-Semitism. It's on the rise. On the rise in Europe and on the rise in England.
Yes!
That anti-Semitism is part of the overall campaign against Israel. It's part of the design. Its intention, using, I don't like to look in any particular direction, but using useful idiots who in some cases are malicious and in some cases know no better. Using those people, they seek to turn Jew against Jew and to turn Jews against Israel. It is their greatest prize, in the same way